Victor, this is just your thoughts if we don't take action, because Iran is, despite what happened a few months ago, the bombing of the enrichment and the nuclear facilities, they are constructing new facilities even deeper in some other mountain. But is there any doubt in your mind that if Iran goes unchecked for the next months or years, that there will not be a catastrophe from them having nuclear capability?
No, you can't negotiate with them because their whole currency is lying, and they're ideologue or fanatic ideologues, and they believe that they have a supernatural view of what's going to happen, and they're on the right side of cosmic divinity and all of these ideas. They've said that Israel, I think Rafsanjani, in a disputed statement, but I think it was accurate, said that Israel was a one-bomb state, and that was the advantage, that you got half the Jews in the world in one place where you could all you needed was one bomb. So you can't negotiate. I think their strategy, to tell you, was kind of a Muhammad Ali rope-a-dope, where they were going to write it out, and then Trump would be gone in 3 years, and people would be angry, and you'd get a Joe Biden, or better yet, type of puppet of the left, but better yet, you would get an AOC or a squad member or a Newsom or Harris, and then you're home free to get the bomb, because they would not do anything. That was the strategy, and it's I think it would have worked, actually, if Trump had have let him off the hook. So now the question is, the domestic support. When the statue fell in April of 2003, I think most polls showed that George Bush had a popularity rating of between 80 and 90%. There was a controversy over the carrier flag, mission accomplished, because there was a little bit of terrorist activity. But I was in Washington at the Naval Academy, and I remember distinctly that Chris Matthews, I was watching CNN, who ended up despising Bush, was a big critic. He said, "We're all neocons now," on the air. And then I remember Andrew Sullivan, who was kind of a chameleon in his political views, but mostly started out as, I guess, a British conservative, but ended up very left-wing. He was all for it. There was a guy who did Little Green Footballs. Remember that little podcast?
Hmm.
I knew the guy. He was a nice guy. I rode a bike with him once, and he was all in. And then all of a sudden, the
Don't forget
insurgency
Billy Crystal.
came, yeah, and the American casualties started, and everybody adopted. And then there was a Vanity Fair on the neocons that they felt had been the architects: Richard Pearl, David Frum, Bill Kristol, um, and all of them had adopted the, I guess you would call it, my beautiful war and your lousy occupation. And the scapegoat they focused on was Don Rumsfeld. If you just get rid of Don Rumsfeld, everything will be okay. So but what I'm saying is that the domestic support will depend on, A, how many American casualties, how quick is it over, and how effective are the results. If it is over within 3 weeks and there's a revolution and they have some type of transitional government, unlike Iraq, then everybody's going to say, I was for it all along, even the ones that were against it.
Yeah.
If, on the other hand, they start shooting down planes, or they hit an American base, or they take out a frigate or something, they get a lucky shot on a carrier, and we don't get a change and we stop, then everybody said I was never for it. That's the way people react. And the base is going to be very tricky, because the MAGA base, remember, it was predicated on no forever wars and no optional wars in the Middle East in reaction to Afghanistan and Iraq. And already Tucker Carlson, as you pointed out, I think in an email to me, has already said that Donald Trump's war was evil.
Yeah.
And he crossed the Rubicon, because remember, during the Dominion voting controversy right after January 6th, when Dominion forced the Fox Corporation to settle for hundreds of millions of dollars, and they had the interrogatories and the messages. One reason I think they wanted to settle because those discovery phase of that lawsuit was going to show a lot of internal communication and outtakes and stuff. But Tucker, do you remember he was there and he said, "I really hate Donald Trump
Mhm.
and I hate him." And his first, if you think about it, his first, I'm trying to remember, but I think I'm pretty accurate. His first this administration has nothing they can show. So he was a diehard critic, and then he came back into the fold, and he was credited with, along with Don Jr., to get J.D. Vance, who he felt was a kindred spirit, kind of neo-isolationist, and his son Buckley went to work for him, and that was sort of the veneer of the MAGA base. And then there were people like Candace and the Fringe and Fuentes and etc. But he's already come out against it now and said it's
Mhm.
evil. So he's basically saying Donald Trump is evil. And comes on the heels of Candace Owens coming out with a documentary about Charlie Kirk's wife,
Yeah.
Bride of Charlie or something.
Yeah. Like the Bride of Frankenstein. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think that fringe, those people are isolating themselves from the Trump movement, if I could say that. So
Yeah.
I don't think he's going to get a lot of popular right wing opposition. He'll get opposition no matter what happens, from AOC, the Squad, Jasmine Crockett, all the candidates that are running for office. They think that, and you'll have Fetterman. I think he's already said that he thought this was a good idea. You'll see
Yeah.
a guy like him or Mark Penn, a reasonable Democrat, understand why it's. Ben Rhodes is already saying, that this is a disaster. This is a guy who was the architect of the disastrous Iran deal.
Well, we were gonna be slaughtered because of the death of Soleimani, right? I mean,
Yes. So we'll see. Again, I think the base will stay with him. I think independents will stay if it's successful. And I think the Democrats are in a holding pattern and they're hoping. I'm not saying that out of maliciousness. I think they actually hope that it won't work, even though that would put American lives at risk. Because from what I can read today, and again, I'm speaking on Saturday, what they're posting, it's not just that it was a mistake, but it's wrong, it's evil. You know what I mean?
yeah.
Well, if it's evil, then you want it to stop, and then you want to destroy evil. But if you think the Americans, I don't know what Tucker means when he says it's evil. If there's Americans in in the way of fire, if you believe it was an evil decision in the sense of wrong, then you might say, I disagree with the decision, but now that it's made, I want Americans to prevail and be safe.